Welcome to Asian American Life. I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. We're kicking off the summer season inside the Rubin Museum, where you'll find the largest collection of Himalayan art in the world. We're going to transport you to the Himalayas with their latest exhibit, the last exhibit here in their New York City location. Plus, in June, we celebrate Philippine Independence Day. I take a look at efforts to teach the legacy of Filipinos who fought side by side with the Americans during World War II. I'll have that story coming up, but first, here's a look at what's ahead on our show. A museum without walls, uncovering untold stories of Filipino soldiers. Why is gun ownership increasing with Asian Americans? Meet the artist who wears many hats. Photographer Lia Chang frames stories of Asian American communities and cultural arts. And mixing classical with contemporary music, a Brooklyn Raga Massive. This and more on Asian American Life.
I'm Kyung Yoon. Most people think of a museum as a place you walk into. But one museum here in New York that focuses on Asian art is taking the unusual step to remake itself as a museum without walls.
For 20 years, the Rubin Museum in New York City has been a beacon for admirers of Asian Himalayan art. Since its founding in 2004 to showcase the prized art collection of Donald and Shelley Rubin, the museum has shone a light on nearly 4,000 art objects that span 1,500 years of history. Its current exhibit, Reimagine Himalayan Art Now, includes the works of more than 30 contemporary artists, many from the Himalayan region and others inspired by its art and culture.
The collection here at the Rubin is mostly traditional Himalayan art, which is, art that was mainly made for religious and ceremonial purposes in the Himalayas throughout the centuries. And the Reimagine Himalayan Art Now shows the continuation of this art-making practice that has been in the Himalayas for thousands of years.
The reimagining goes well beyond the art itself, with the Rubin planning to reinvent itself as a so-called global museum. As part of this plan, the Rubin will permanently close its doors on October 6th and sell its 70,000 square feet gallery in Chelsea.
We're reimagining ourselves as a museum without walls, and we will be having a new model of traveling experiences, exhibitions, long-term loans to really meet people where they are and to promote Himalayan art, not only in New York, but globally.
The museum plans to loan objects from its collection to shows taking place this year in Milan and Chicago, and has arranged to have an exhibition called The Gateway to Himalayan Art travel to universities around the United States through 2026.
So really, it's an important teaching tool for professors at those universities. And also with Project Himalayan Art, it expands beyond art history. There are sociology professors and religion professors and mathematics professors and all different disciplines that have been very interested in teaching from the objects, which is really exciting.
And while new global audiences will certainly gain from the museum's decision, many New Yorkers will feel the loss of the Rubin, one of very few museums in New York City that focus on Asian art. I'm Kyung Yoon for Asian American Life.
As Filipinos get ready to celebrate Philippine Independence Day, I take a closer look at efforts to teach the legacy of Filipino veterans who fought side by side with Americans during World War II.
I think that oftentimes you get written out of history when you're not the one doing the writing.
Righting a wrong. The Filipino Veterans in Recognition Project, PhilVetRep, wants to make sure that the lost history of Filipinos who fought alongside U.S. soldiers in World War II is a part of today's history lessons in schools across the country.
Why do we have to do this? Because this is an untold hidden story for over 80 years. It's American history.
Antonio Taguba, a retired Major General of the U.S. Army and son of a World War II vet, is leading the efforts. He is chairman of FilVetRep, an advocacy group that developed the education project Duty to Country Under One Flag. The project is a collection of free downloadable resources to help educators teach this little-known chapter of U.S. history, a history of broken promises.
No one talks about the Filipinos who were there, much less the fact that we took away their service afterwards. It's sort of a second-class kind of narrative about World War II.
The first school in the country to adopt this program is right here in the tri-state, Bergenfield High School in Bergenfield, New Jersey. It started with a chance meeting in the White House with the general and the town's mayor, who happens to be Filipino, one of the few Filipino mayors in the country.
He said, they were looking for a town or a school where they could introduce the curriculum. I said, Bergenfield, we are a top school. We are a great town. I said, I can introduce you to our superintendent.
It was also the same year New Jersey mandated the teaching of Asian American history in public schools.
I was thrilled to have the opportunity because growing up here in this community, I've always had a deep connection to the Filipino Americans living in Bergenfield, right from the beginning of my time starting school.
Bergenfield has a sizable Filipino population. Its nickname is Little Manila of Bergen County. But Tully sees this history benefiting all students.
What I hope for the students is that they gain a deeper appreciation and understanding for the brave soldiers who represented our country, and it gives them a deeper understanding of the Filipino Americans who fought in the wars and their contributions made to our great country.
Students learn the history of U.S. colonialism in the Philippines and the Filipino men and women who were recruited to fight against the Japanese. An estimated 250,000 answered the call to duty. The U.S. had promised the Filipino soldiers benefits and citizenship, but America broke that promise soon after the war ended with the 1946 U.S. Rescission Act, stripping the Filipino veterans of not just their benefits, but their dignity.
I often ask folks, are you familiar with the Rescission Act of 1946? And they say, what is that? Well, it's a law that was passed by Congress that demeaned, disenfranchised over 250,000 Filipinos who just wanted their pay and wanted an opportunity to be American citizens. But that law revoked both and denied both provisions. And so we could not, it was unimaginable for them to fight a war to save the United States and then go back to their communities, to their families poor.
In 2017, we interviewed one of those surviving veterans.
I sacrificed the welfare of my loved ones just to go and fight for the United States. And here I am, I still floating as if I did not serve. And that is very insulting.
This history should not be forgotten, not only because the Philippine soldiers suffered so much along with the Americans, but I think for the future that any countries that helped the Americans or fought with the Americans should not be forgotten.
According to General Taguba, the curriculum, which received a grant and seal of approval from the Department of Education, has been adopted by more than 20 schools in 7 states. FilVetRep worked with educators, writers, and artists to create a project that would be appealing to today's students. The materials look like a graphic comic with illustrations telling the stories of heroes. In the meantime, the battle off the field continues. FilVetRep is working on creating a memorial for the veterans, recognition for the guerrillas, civilian men and women who fought against the Japanese, and they would like a formal apology.
What we're asking for is a national apology from the President of the United States for having them endure a war in the home front.
I'm Ernabelle DeMillo for Asian American Life.
Gun sales have surged in the last few years across all demographics in the U.S., but especially among Asian Americans. Public health researchers say this may lead to more unintended injuries. But the owner of the last gun range in Manhattan says proper training will keep everyone safe. Business is booming at Manhattan's Lone Gun Range. Established in 1964, Westside Rifle and Pistol Range is the oldest and only place on the island where gun enthusiasts can take aim and shoot.
It's our little slice of heaven, you know. People know this to be as a refuge.
Darren Leung, who grew up near Manhattan's Chinatown, has owned the gun range since 1989. He knows he's a rarity.
Okay, I'm a minority amongst minorities. I am in a business that is not well liked in the city of New York. That already makes me a minority. I'm an Asian American doing that kind of business. Again, that's a double minority at that point.
But that may be changing. Since a 2022 Supreme Court decision eased concealed carry laws in New York State, New Yorkers who pass background checks can now apply for a state-issued license to carry concealed guns after completing 16 hours of state-regulated firearms training, which can be done here. The new law has been a boon for the gun range.
It's been good for everybody, my friends. Think about it. It's good for me that way, but it's also good for the individual who's able to get that carry permit. There's, of course, also the different ways of carrying a firearm, where you can go, what you can carry. So it's pretty comprehensive, of course, and there's also a qualification shoot at the end of it. You have to shoot for qualification.
Gun sales in the U.S. have been increasing since the coronavirus outbreak, an 87% increase in sales in just the first half of 2020 compared to the previous year. Gun sales to Asian Americans increased by 43%, according to the Firearm Industry Association. Public health researchers at the University of Michigan say anti-Asian hate had a triggering effect.
What we found is that direct racism experience and the cultural racism, where Asian Americans felt that they're portrayed negatively by media and political leaders, both are linking to increased gun purchase. And we also found that more than 1/3 of those gun owners carried gun more frequently since the pandemic.
I think a lot of my fellow Asians were kind of fearful about what might come as retribution. So, not to say that they were going to go per se on the attack, but to get a firearm just to defend themselves and to be able to defend their families was more so than anything else.
Nearly 3/4 of gun owners say they own a firearm for personal protection. And while gun ownership has increased among all demographics, only 10% of Asian Americans own guns, compared to the 38% of white Americans who do, according to the Pew Research Center.
I'll be the first to tell you, everybody should enjoy the sport of shooting, but not everybody should carry a firearm. There should be a delineation as to who carries and who enjoys the sport. You need a sense of maturity when you carry a firearm. You can't be prone to violence or have a bad temper.
Public health researchers say that more guns may lead to more unintended injuries. But Leung says proper training is key to gun safety and welcomes new gun owners to hone their skills at his Lone Gun Range.
I want more people to come. It doesn't matter who, Asian American, Hispanic American, Black American, I don't care. Equal opportunities, my friend. We love everyone. I don't care. I have housewives, I have clergy, I have doctors, I have lawyers, I have students. It doesn't matter what job you hold or where you are in stature. Whenever you walk through that door, you're equal to everyone here.
For Asian American Life, I'm Rainer Ramirez.
A hat made of pipe cleaners inspired one woman to conduct a social experiment that taught her the value of human connection.
I have a friend, her name is Tracy. I forgot her birthday. Many times I have forgotten people's birthdays, but this one in particular, I wanted to actually remember, because she was such a special person for me. And I thought about sending her just like birthday wishes. For first day when I forgot, I feel guilty and I wanted to show her appreciation. So I went to a dollar store, I got a package of pipe cleaners, probably about this many. And I made a tiny birthday crown, sent her birthday wishes, right? But then the second day was when my daughter was just rummaging through my bag and she took out whatever was left over and she asked me like, what is this? And that's when I thought about, I'm going to do a project to remember her birthday. And I'm gonna do that with something that's special between Tracy and myself, and that was pipe cleaners. Both of us are specialized in human-centered design, and we use pipe cleaners to create prototypes. So I thought if I can make something with pipe cleaners every day, that way, by 365 days, I will definitely be remembered. So I made 3 rules. Number 1, create something new every day. I wear it from 9 to 5 because that's the time when I go to work, go to meetings, and I thought I will be very uncomfortable, very challenged by people's view on, how they look at me. And then the third one is if somebody asks me, what is the story? And what the hell are you doing with this? Then I have to answer with the story why I'm doing this, and I'm doing it for my friend Tracy. In a culture where you are appreciated for being humble, not standing out, we as humans will thrive better if we can show up as who we could be, so that I don't have to figure too much about who you are. There are so many people who stop me. They have a desire to get to know another human being more than they just want to blend in and just be on their way. So what I learned about human connection is that if you block out the biases and allow the curiosity to come in, then there is really a lot of possibilities. And so I think what Wearable Tracey allowed me to do was, it became an automatic filtering process. Are you curious? Oh, you are, because you're coming to me and asking me questions. I don't have to send you the invitation because by wearing one, I'm telling you that I'm interested in connecting with you. I'm giving you the invitation. So I think human connection can be quite difficult because we have accustomed to protect ourselves, right? We don't talk to strangers. But I think that also blocks our ability to connect with one another. So if I had learned anything through this process of creating and wearing it and putting it out there is, if we can allow curiosity over our knowledge or our assumptions, the human connection can be a lot more abundant than what we have now.
I'm Kyung Yoon. It's not every day that you get to talk with a woman who's an actor, a photographer, a journalist, a producer, and an activist. But I got to sit down with Lia Chang, whose extraordinary career can't be reduced to a single word. Yes, that's Tony, Emmy, and Grammy Award winner and star of Hadestown, Andre de Shields, serenading Lia Chang with How Deep is the Ocean? The occasion was the Prospect Theater Company's 2022 Spring Gala, where Lia was honored with the Prospect Muse Award for her lifetime body of work.
It was so moving to be in that room surrounded by all the people that I love. It was very hard to sit on my hands and not photograph all of you, I'm just telling you. So special.
Photographing others is Lia's specialty, and something she's been doing professionally in New York for more than 3 decades.
In 1993, I specifically decided that I wanted to document my colleagues and contemporaries in the worlds in which I work, which were acting, fashion, and journalism. In New York, it's the center of the world. We have access to everybody from politicians to astronauts, certainly. You were part of my Asian Americans in the Workforce series that was commissioned by APALA, the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, of which my mother was the San Francisco chapter president.
Lia's mother, Beverly Umehara, a mom of 4, had started working as a secretary, but went on to become a renowned labor leader and activist, serving as the president of the San Francisco chapter of the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, or APALA. Tragically, she died from a brain aneurysm at the age of 53, but Lia says her mom's indomitable spirit lives on in her.
Although I'd experienced a lot of early death in my life, I knew that there wasn't a moment to be wasted. And I really knew that I could make a difference.
And Lia has been making a difference ever since, as an actor, a multimedia content producer, and co-founder of Bev's Girl Films, advocating for more roles and positive portrayals of Asian Americans.
I can't remember what you said.
While I've worked a lot in films, from a very early age, all the roles that I got to play or were available for Asian American women at the time were hookers, maids, victims, and gang killers. I'm 6th generation Chinese American. I don't have an accent. I would like to be cast as what I'm sitting in front of you right now. And that's the reason why I created Bev's Girls Films.
What do you see when you look in the mirror?
Bev's Girl Films' debut short film, Hide and Seek, was selected as a top 10 film of 2015 in Asian American Film Lab's 72-hour shootout filmmaking competition, and Lia received a Best Actress nomination. Lia is also the executive producer and host of Backstage Pass with Lia Chang, a TV show she launched in 2022 on the Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Her first episode featured an interview with Broadway star Eddie Lee, the first Chinese-American actor to play Alexander Hamilton in the Broadway musical Hamilton. Among her future projects, Lia is most passionate about a documentary on the life of her extraordinary mother. I'm Kyung Yoon for Asian American Life.
I'm Vivian Lane. South Asian classical music can claim roots dating back more than 2,000 years, and it is still thriving today thanks to Brooklyn Raga Massive, a New York-based musicians collective whose modern take on it blends the past and the present. Their improvisational wizardry recently took the stage here at the iconic Joe's Pub in Manhattan. The Arun Ramamurti Trio demonstrates just how much musical DNA jazz and raga share.
There's this idea of the jam session in jazz culture, especially in New York City. And Indian classical music functions in a very similar way of being highly improvised.
Joe's Pub is a perfect home for that. We host everything, and we host things that don't fit neatly into any kind of a genre or category.
That improvisation is a big part of raga music. Raga, from the Sanskrit word meaning to dye or color, refers to the genre and a musical framework for composing on the fly. Not so much a tune as it is a guide to making several tunes. The ancient Hindu scriptures, the Vedas, refer to ragas. From the spiritual to folk, the Indo-Caribbean-influenced Ragini ensemble twines electronic instrumentation with raga music.
Tradition and innovation and conversation with each other. We're all playing with such different media.
And the band Quadrature, led by sitar player Neil Murgai, rooted in raga, but very much nodding to 20th century genres.
But we do this kind of raga rock, psychedelic raga rock, I would say. I have my sitar running through a lot of effects. There's a trumpet player with effects and bass and drum set.
They are just some of the more than 100 musicians, vocalists, and DJs who form the nonprofit collective Brooklyn Raga Massive.
Their soundscapes blend the traditional and modern. By bringing South Asian classical music to audiences, performing up to 80 times a year, Brooklyn Raga Massive provides paid gigs for struggling musicians and a collaborative community. It all started with a weekly jam session in a dive bar.
There were so many musicians who were steeped in Indian classical music in Brooklyn, and we're all friends. We're all playing together for years.
Murgai and Ramamurthy co-founded Brooklyn Raga Massive after those jam sessions reached, well, critical mass.
As the years got on, our audience and the people that would come and know about us were musicians from various styles. So then the jam session started to evolve in a lot of different ways. And that was really the heartbeat of this organization.
The soul of the mission is formed by each musician's relationship to South Asian classical music. In Arun's case, he learned Western classical violin as a boy. It was a prelude to fully embracing the music his family loved, Carnatic, the South Indian branch of raga music that developed in the 15th century.
I did love Western classical music very much, and I played in an orchestra, New Jersey State Youth Orchestra. In Carnatic music, I was learning to improvise. I was learning how to think for myself and how to create something from nothing. Just given a few set of rules, how do you tell a story with this?
For more than a decade, Brooklyn Raga Massive has been specializing in the sonic journey. From performing a live score during a screening of the 1973 animated surrealist film, Fantastic Planet, to playing the Millennium Stage at the Kennedy Center in 2016. To gathering 21 musicians to perform the hour-long minimalist composition In C. Each Brooklyn Raga Massive encounter spans eras, cultures, and corners of the world to promote simpatico.
Music can really bring the walls down between us, and it does it through a very emotional and spiritual space.
Musicians from India, from Europe, they come here and they're like, this doesn't exist over there. We love this. This is amazing.
Brooklyn Raga Massive's performances mostly happen in the tri-state area, but some musicians do tour. For more information, visit brooklynragamassive.org. For Asian American Life, I'm Vivian Lee.
And that's our show for now. Be sure to visit the Rubin Museum maybe once, twice before they close on October 6th and go global. And coming up next month, we have our special Asian American Voting Power. If you want to learn more about all our stories, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Asian American Life. I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. We'll see you next time.